Greetings, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. I told myself that basically I would have some kind of hope, some kind of expectation going forward that when it comes to balancing, we wouldn't see that many updates. I remember thinking Infamous Iron Doom, aka Infamous Iron Man, feels pretty OP. They said they would have tuned down Kitty Pryde and Hercules had this balancing system been in place. But if they're not going to touch Infamous Iron Doom, they're not going to touch anybody after him, right? Right? Maybe? Wrong. I'm finally able to catch up on messages. I know this is old news to some, but some people tell me that they don't hang out on the forums like some people, and so if it's not in the in-game inbox, they don't know what's going on. So I appreciate, even if it's later than, say, some channels get out there, that I can still deliver some news accordingly. Because we have a balancing update for this May 2nd, although by the time this hits my channel, most people will be in May 3rd. Shout out across the pond viewers. About the balance team here with an update on Absorbing Man and Baron Zemo. So Absorbing Man, of course, is a top MVP for Battlegrounds and Alliance War. Offensively, I've seen him do some amazing stuff, but he really thrives, it feels like, defensively. Okay, so Absorbing Man. On attack, Absorbing Man has some specific targets to hit in the current meta, Path 9 and Alliance War, as well as some annoying cosmic defenders such as Terrax, Null, and Annihilus. So far, we're happy seeing players use Absorbing Man very effectively in those matchups and are happy with where he has landed as an attacker. So, at this point, seeing how big the paragraph is under this, you start to get a little trust issues like, uh-oh, they didn't say we're happy with where Absorbing Man is in general, just as an attacker. On defense, Absorbing Man had the goal of being a difficult defender looking for specific RPG counters in addition to mastering punishing his special attacks with your own heavy attack. So far, we're seeing that Absorbing Man has made a strong impact in the current defender meta, and Battlegrounds, we're currently satisfied with his performance as a defender, as his ban rate and defensive win rate are in a healthy and expected spot. When they say healthy, they must be thinking of like a high percentage, because I feel like some of the only matchups I've won this week in Battlegrounds have been when they didn't block my Absorbing Man and he became a defender. While Absorbing Man's defensive win rate started off high on release in comparison to strong defenders who benefit from defensive tactics, we're seeing it trend down over time as more players become familiar with the playstyle needed to counter him, as well as the champions who counter him effectively. Developer note, try to avoid using Red Hulk. However, we're seeing a trend in the Challenger and Hard tiers where Absorbing Man's defensive win rate is higher than what we'd like to see, more specifically in the same war. This indicates that there are situations where players who bring a suboptimal counter are stuck fighting Absorbing Man over multiple fights due to his strong regeneration, resetting progress in the fight. While we still want to keep the threat of his regeneration on defense, we're looking to lower the amount of cases where a player can lose their progress between attempts and become fully stuck. I mean, this really is like an immovable object. You'd call him the Snorlax of Alliance War defense. Since we're happy with his performance as an attacker, we're looking to make a change that only affects his defender threat in Alliance War, and are looking to target this part of his signature ability. When Absorbing Man consumes Morph charges, he gains a non-stacking regenerative passive, healing 10 to 30% of his missing health over 12 seconds. As a defender, this effect also triggers whenever Absorbing Man enters or refreshes any form. In his current state, since Absorbing Man starts the fight by entering his Black Uru form, he also triggers the regeneration clause in his signature ability. Since this ability, firing on fight start, doesn't give the attacker the chance to counter this regeneration, it results in players losing progress. To lower the frequency of encounters with which lost progress, we'll be looking to add a clause to the ability that prevents it from triggering at the start of the fight. Our hope is that this will lower the cases where attackers give up multiple attack bonuses to Absorbing Man while still encouraging players to move away from using Red Hulk against him and to use Void more. Now, here's my counter to this. I said this. Go back to my channel. You'll have to go back a lot of videos. I said this feels like it shouldn't be an existing part of him for months, because we saw him as a boss in event quests, but even in like side quests. And Kabam saw this long before this was an issue in Alliance War and didn't say anything. And so, I don't know about you all. Maybe I'm just much worse at the game than most people who watch my channel. But I feel like I've used units in the past, and certainly items like revives, because of this, and Kabam turned a blind eye until this moment. So, this Absorbing Man situation is Kind of wow. All right, Baron Zemo is doing a good job of hitting his attribute and meta goals. In attack, he's showing up as a viable attacker option with either his bleeds or furies, especially against science champions with many debuffs or defensive abilities. On defense, he's encouraging bleed resistance on attackers that fight him. His indefinite effects are the right level of terrifying, and his route is somewhere you definitely don't want to be caught. Well, you can say that again. While we're happy with the power level of Zemo in day-to-day content, he has two abilities that were intended to be defensively focused, but that are heavily shaping his offensive identity too. His Fury gained from Purify or Immunity, and the Armor Up buffs that function as a cooldown for his Cleanse passives. We want to preserve the strength of his Fury and Cleanses while making sure Baron Zemo feels interactive to play as and against. I gotta be honest, I have no idea what that means, and I have a master's degree. Maybe that means I don't really know what I'm doing. But regardless, that's a weird sentence. Though we want to adjust these abilities, we want these changes to feel neutral or even beneficial in most fights. For the handful of existing matchups that are affected by the change direction below, like Black Widow Clairvoyant, we still want him to feel like a strong attacking option. Furies on Purify or Immunity. Zemo gains a potent Fury buff each time his opponent purifies a debuff or is immune to an effect. These can stack and apply to all debuffs or effects, including those from any quest nodes. This combination can leave open some interactions that are either too punishing to play against when he's a quest defender or incentivize play that breaks the core fight flow as an attacker. Again, when I read breaks the core fight flow as an attacker, I don't know what that means. We'll be looking to safeguard against some of those potential combinations while still keeping this ability as a major damage source for him, with the early direction being to add a simple cap at around 15. Since most of his matchups involve him using a Fury as soon as he gains it, this ability should still feel quite strong, which is our goal. We believe this will affect niche but extreme matchups on both offensive and defensive. Cleanse passives and armor up buffs. When Baron Zemo uses all his cleanse passives, his opponent gains an armor up buff. As soon as that buff is no longer present, either due to expired or removed, he regains his cleanse passives and can start the loop again. Because regaining cleanse passives is tied to an armor buff, fights with effects like armor break and nullify have drastically different pacing compared to fights in which Zemo has to wait the full 20 seconds of his armor up buffs. We want to make sure the cycle of his cleanse feels more consistent, preserve his cleanse uptime to counter debuffs and prevent him from too quickly being able to put his opponent back into root. To accomplish this, we're looking into changing the buff to a passive and reducing its duration so his cleanse is more consistent back with about 15 seconds. With the idea of it being changed to a passive, we're also exploring what type of defensive effect best helps Zemo as a skill attacker. Changes for both characters. Absorbing Man and Baron Zemo's changes hit the CCP beta for members to dig into and create content with in June and July, and then August they will be releasing their new changes. Look, maybe this is going to be good. I'm not saying this is automatically like the sky is falling, but we haven't seen two champions with a balance update like this before. And the Absorbing Man specifically, that's only helped people have to use units and items to get past him in Event Quest. So the idea in this description that it's mainly like an Alliance War thing confuses me, because it's been a problem in all aspects of the game. But maybe I'm just being too critical. Maybe I'm being Mr. Negative again. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And otherwise, have a great one.